So thank you for joining us today. We're super excited to have you. I want to introduce, this is Mark Hopkin. He's the second counselor, which for us means he's in a leadership position of one of our stakes, which is comparable to a diocese in the Eagle River, North Anchorage area for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And tell me where else you guys pick up, Mark.
We cover Eagle River and Shugiak, and then the most eastern part of Anchorage. We have a ward in Anchorage, which also includes Jay-Bear. And then we have 3 branches from Western Alaska: Nome, Kotzebue, and Bethel.
Oh, wonderful. So you have a very diverse group that you so I wanted to ask you today just some of the questions from your perspective to talk to us about how the Mormon Church has affected families. You have a long family history of being LDS. That's your family's faith tradition, right?
I do,
So
yes.
maybe you can tell me about your perspective, how it's blessed your family and what it's brought to the table.
Absolutely. Yes, the newest convert in my family was my grandma, who joined the church after she got married, probably in about 1925 or so. So we've been in the church a long time. I do have also family members who knew Joseph Smith back during the and a family member who was in the Mormon battalion. So a long history. So I grew up in the church, and it's been something, sometimes I think about every time that I do a scratch and win and lose, or don't win the Publishers Clearinghouse. I have to think back on the fact that I feel extremely lucky that I was able to be born into a family that had the gospel, because there's a lot of people who've not had that. I hope that at some point I would have found it if I hadn't, but what a wonderful blessing it's been in my life and my family's life to have.
So you had someone that knew the founder of the church, the prophet Joseph Smith, and then all the way to your grandma. So tell me, one of the things that I've encountered, I had someone email me and say, I've only heard negative things about your church. And this was someone who sat on the board for the LGBT community, and that was their perspective. And she said after knowing my husband and I, she wanted to know, we did not represent to her the feelings she had heard. So maybe you can address the church and like Mormons and gays. Tell me your experience on that.
Well, I'm glad that actually knowing a member of the church helped her opinion. I think that's usually the way that it works.
But,
and I've had other people who I've known and who've told me that knowing my kids helped them know that the church was a better thing that they had previously known. They didn't mention that knowing me was. We have certain beliefs that we defend and that we hold. And I think every church needs to be able to have doctrines that it can practice and that it can teach, which may not always go in line with what is culturally trendy. And so some people may form opinions. One thing that I will say is that one thing that's very strong in our religion is that we love everybody. We believe everybody is our brother or our sister. We don't hold any ill will towards anyone of any religion or of any belief or practice. And so, you mentioned the LGBTQ committee or community, and they may have some issues with some of our beliefs, which are that we believe in traditional marriage, we believe in certain moral standards. That does not believe we hold any ill will toward them. And I have friends who are gay. They may not believe or agree with what I believe, but they know that I'm a friend and that I will stand up for them in anything that I can.
Our church's view is a whole pie picture, right? There might be one slice we don't agree on, but we love people, are inclusive of everyone.
Absolutely.
So another question that I've had that I'm hoping you can address too is polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
Please provide your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, the church's view is that marriage is between one man and one woman. There have been times, both in the Bible, there were times when the Lord deviated from that in certain instances. And in our church's history, there was a time when that was the case. It wasn't as widespread as I think people believe it was, and it didn't last that long. Polygamy has not been a part of the church in over 100 years. And in fact, anybody who currently practices polygamy is excommunicated from the church. There are some break-off groups from the church that still practice that and still believe in it. They're not affiliated with the church. And so it was for a certain set of circumstances. The church is very open about our history on polygamy. There are some very good pieces that have been written that talk about the purpose of it and why it did not continue. So, and some of the breakoff groups, for instance, the FLDS, which stands for Fundamentalist LDS, still
is that
have
the Warren Jeffs group?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So kind of in the newspaper out there, they have nothing.
And they're small numbers, but they make a lot of noise. And they still have a piece of our name in them, but that doesn't mean that they're not affiliated with us, and they cause a little bit of confusion among people. But they're not part of our religion, and we do not claim them as any kind of adherence to ours.
So I also want to talk about one other thing. So in our church, everyone has a volunteer called position. Maybe you could talk about you and your wife, how women have leadership roles in our church, men do too. For example, Karen, tell us what Karen's done.
My wife has been, she mostly has focused her leadership roles among the young women of the church, which is ages 12 to 18, 19. She loves working with the girls and is very good at it. And so she has held positions as a young women's president, both at the ward level and the stake level.
Which would mean a congregation and a cluster of congregations.
Yes. And leading hundreds of girls. There are women in the church who lead the other adult women. I think probably the church has more leadership opportunities for women than any organization that I can think of. The Relief Society is a worldwide organization of women. It's one of the oldest women's organizations in the church. It was started in the 1830s. And there are millions of women who are in it. And so anybody who believes that women don't have a voice in the church doesn't understand our organization, does not understand our doctrine. If you meet a woman in the church who has these leaders, yourself, I mean, you are out in the community, you're representing the church.
I thought you were going to talk about how I was a shrinking violet.
Yes, that too. All you need to know is some of the women in our church to understand how seriously we take their opinions and their contribution to our doctrine.
Okay. Great, thank you. So tell me in conclusion, how this has impacted your family and your family togetherness, what that means for you to be a member of the church.
One of the doctrines of the church is that families can be together forever. When you're married, it is not till death do you part, it can be for eternity. And that is a very empowering concept, to think that these people that you love are someone that you will be able to be with forever. And so it's really the source of most of my happiness in life is, looking at my daughters. I've got 4 daughters, so I'm kind of outnumbered in my family. But to see them grow, 2 of my daughters have served missions. One was in Ukraine while Ukraine was being taken over by Russia. She had to be evacuated. And this was a nervous time, but it was also a really exciting time. It was a time that brought us together as a family to pray a lot and to think about her. And it's been wonderful to see the women that my daughters have turned into, and to know that because they are strong and that they are living good lives, that our family can be together forever, and that when I die, which my daughters are convinced is gonna be any
And
day now.
impending.
Yeah. That it won't be the end.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that. We thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.